Well, first of all, introduce yourself, Mr. Arking.
Okay, I am Moshe Arking. I am married to Frances, as most of the people in this community, they know her better than me because she's the one.
That's usually the case. You're like Mr. Francis.
Exactly, yeah. I've always been ever since I got married to her. So
there you go. Well, I know you.
came from the U.S. 5 years ago, and here we are in Wendy.
All right. Well, I know you as just a very positive, entertaining, well-rounded type of guy. If I had to, have a description of you, you're like, besides, son, father, husband, you're an artist. Even though I don't know if you consider yourself an artist. I also consider you an entrepreneur, like a businessman, but I think of you as an artist, one of these closeted artists. And I feel that way mainly because of the photos that you post. You have a beautiful artistic eye, and you always share amazing photos of places that you've gone to visit. So that sort of kind of brings us around to like this whole lockdown and epidemic, pandemic, this world, corona issue, and the challenges that everyone's facing. I know you travel a lot, not just for work, but for pleasure, it seems. So how are you faring with that? How's that affecting you mentally and emotionally?
Yeah, I guess it's funny because I'm both an introvert and I also like to get out and about. Back in March with like 12 weeks straight, I didn't leave the house. I mean, I was fine staying on my property for 12 weeks straight. And I was totally fine with that. I just keep myself busy and, I have no problem with that. But at the same time, when I am out and about, I love it. And I love traveling. I love seeing things, going places. So yeah, some of it, sometimes it's for work. So like, when I was in Germany last year, that was for work, or in, Michigan or various places in the United States. I was Florida last year as well. So a lot of places I end up going for work, but then there's also places for fun. Some of them with Frances, like Italy and things like that. And then unfortunately, some of them without her because it's just spur of the moment while I'm traveling for work, and I have a weekend in between work. Like let's say I used to do that a lot actually. So like when I was in New York usually I go for 10 days and that Shabbat in the middle. I hated staying in New York because then I'd end up not making anyone happy because everyone was like, oh, you're in New York, you didn't come see me, whatever. So I would just basically say I'm not here. So I would just hop on a plane and just go somewhere for the weekend. And it didn't pay obviously to come back to Israel and go all the way back again. So I would just go somewhere nearby. And when you're in New York, the Caribbean is also nearby. So I could go sit on a beach in the Dominican Republic for 2-3 days, and that also worked. So those are the ones that some of those pictures, I end up getting a little bit of flack from Frances, but it does make some nice pictures and some quiet weekends. Mm-hmm. So
look,
kill me for saying this, but
there's a lot of logic in there. I'm talking, because that whole, exactly what you say, when you have a lot of family or friends and you're in town and you have like X number of hours, it's almost better to just say, I'm not available because I'm working, because then, why didn't you visit me? You were here, or I heard you were in town, blah, blah, blah. So I like that. I like that you just sort of took yourself.
My family has a whole history of that, actually, going back for a while, because we have a lot of family here in Israel, even though we grew up in New York. And we would go back and forth a lot, but a lot of times, if we went just to go see certain people, we went just for something, or vice versa. If they came to New York for something, a lot of times we'd have to keep it quiet because otherwise everyone gets all upset. Oh, you didn't come see me. You didn't come see me. You didn't come see me. So in my family, there's like all history of all these clandestine trips where, what do you mean you were here a month ago? What? And then they find out, and then then it's even worse. So you got to be really careful about that. But we got a lot of stories like for a bit.
It was good that you're able to do that. I know that a lot of people are struggling with being stuck inside and not being able to travel. And, for good or for bad, I think that a lot of people are rediscovering if they really are, if it's not driving them too crazy, they're rediscovering different aspects of their personality that they perhaps never focused on before. Like I know someone who, she was in a panic initially when this first started, business, what she's going to do. And she just sort of rethought the whole way that she was working, her whole lifestyle. And she actually is happier now than she was before, just simply because
so it kind of
she was forced to reevaluate.
Kind of just forced that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
wow, that's I mean that's a lucky person, because you actually hear a lot of people that are actually feeling very defeated by it as well. Something interesting, because you're talking about travel, so something interesting that I actually read about last week was that there are now flights to nowhere. That's becoming a very big popular thing, where you basically go to the airport, you get on a plane, you fly around for a few hours, and then you land back in the same airport and you go home. And it's bizarre. People are doing it. And I read about this one flight, this one popular flight that's like booked in Australia. They go up for 8 hours. They take an 8-hour flight voluntarily to come back home.
It's hysterical.
Because people are just stir crazy. They just miss traveling. They just miss the feeling. Mm-hmm. And I was reading the interviews, and one guy was saying how he misses that whole excitement of the airport and getting on a plane. And I'm like, what excitement? Crazy. But the truth is, though, it's something that I was nervous about for a while. And then when I actually went this summer, it was a lot safer than I thought it was. It felt a lot more comfortable than I was worried about. So for anyone who's worried, anyone who's on the fence, they can talk to me, and I'll let them know my experience. But
we'll send them in your direction. I might have to take the plane to nowhere. I'm telling you, it's actually, I love flying. I love traveling. And so I think I would be that insane person who would like pack the bag, the little wheelie bag, and, get all dressed up and go on a flight. And, cause I am Latin, and you got to get dressed up to go everywhere. So I would for sure do that and have like a fun time doing it. I could see myself doing that, and here's like a little secret. I love to cook. I love good food. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate a great meal, but I really, if anyone cooks for me, I just love it so much, because I cook so much myself that I even like airline food, because someone else made it and handed me something to eat. I know it's insane. People are like, what? You eat airline food? I'm like,
I don't mind it either.
Yeah. I mean, the best airline food I ever had.
It depends on the airline. Some of them have worse. The only thing I don't like. Which one was the best one?
What? I lost you for a second. What were you saying?
Oh, I was saying, which was your best airline food?
Okay, this was back in the day, because I grew up, not religious, and, kept kosher style. And, I ended up taking like 13 flights one summer when I went back to Honduras. And on Taka Airlines, which is like this like Guatemalan airline, it was the best food ever. It tasted like it came from someone's kitchen, and it probably did, because it was Taka Airlines, which, like, I'm not sure all the bolts and everything were connected in this plane. Literally, the plane landed, and every single person, because like, everyone's Latin and they're Catholic, they all like did the sign of the cross when the plane landed. And I was like, whoa, what did I get myself into? And the final leg of this trip, the connecting flight, was like this little hopper plane from the mainland to like an island. And it's like, brr, 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 brr. This is mid-flight, it kept doing that, the wings, the engine was like, brr, brr, brr. And I have never been so terrified in my entire life. This was like maybe 30 years ago, and I'm still scarred by this experience. Still to this day, but the food was amazing.
That reminds me.
Oh man, I tell you, this life is become like so like kooky and crazy for us. I'm going to ask you a few little quick questions. First of all, and then I want to hear about like your experience of Israel versus America, and once we get here and the things that we go through. So a couple like quick, and your favorite room in the house.
right where I'm at right now in my office.
Yeah.
I had a design knowing that I was going to be in here for, many hours a day. And so I just made it as comfortable as possible and just built, scratched, like ground up, just did the whole room
All right.
before we moved in.
Well, besides any member of your family, because we don't want you to, including your wife and kids, let's exclude them. Who's your favorite person? No family members, because you're gonna upset someone if you name a family
No, well, one person that I've been fixated on for a number of years is Menachem Begin. I mean, he's no longer alive, but
member.
he's someone that I have actually a picture of him right up here right now. Look in the Rose Garden at the White House with Ronald Reagan. I keep on my desk here. Two of my heroes. So I would say those are some heroes. I can't, talk about favorite. I don't want to name anyone like on a personal level because I don't want to offend anyone else. So I'm just going to talk about icon status.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
great.
So icon status, I would say probably Menachem Begin. I mean, he was a person who lived with a very strong sense of identity and a strong sense of purpose. And he was probably one of the only politicians in recent history that stood by his convictions, even if it meant losing election after election. He never flip-flopped. He didn't waver. He stood by what he believed in. And eventually he did make it, and he did end up making a huge difference. And, everything he went through from his youth all the way through to the end. I mean, he was someone that was, greater than just a person. I mean, he was someone that was a legend, literally a legend. So, he's someone that we need more of today.
Excellent. Very nice. I love that. Now, let's talk a little bit about the move to Israel, because, when we all make that jump over here, whether it's a year ago, 5 years ago, 15 years ago, I personally feel bad for the people who did it like more than 17, 18 years ago, let's say 20 years ago. Like they did it like it was like the wild, wild west.
Yeah, I always say I've never been able to do it that way. Yeah, it was without Waze and Facebook. I don't think I'd ever been able to do it.
Yep, absolutely.
But it was definitely a very interesting move culturally to change from, a very rigid, organized place like the United States to, Israel, where anything goes and where there's a lot of disorganization and there's a lot of, so as you know, I have a couple of crazy stories.
There's one that you're gonna have to share with
which thankfully I think you're talking about the facts.
You gotta hear that.
That's one thing that drives me nuts.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so that's one thing that absolutely drove me nuts when I moved here, because everything's like facts. I'm like, what facts? Like, what do you mean facts? Like, who has a fax? And you go to the bank, they want you to send a fax. You call the government office, they want you to send a fax. You call everything with fax. I'm like, what fax? I remember. I mean, there's a separate story, but I remember one time I was in the U.S. on a business trip, and I called Bank of Pauline because I needed to authorize something on my account or whatever it was. They said, "Oh, you got to come into the branch." I'm like, "I'm not coming in. I'm 6,000 miles away." They're like, "Oh, okay. Well, then you could send us a fax." I'm like, "There's no fax where I come from." They're like, "Where do you come from?" I'm like, "21st century. There's no fax here. We do emails. You guys are in the 1980s. Let's move on from that."
I know.
So the guy actually appreciated the humor so much that he said, "Okay, fine, send me a PDF and I'll take care of it for you." So I actually did it because he was nice, because he knew me, imagine me face to face. So it worked out well, which is actually something to be said about Israel in the positive, is that, you will know your bank manager, you will know your, the people in the government offices or the politicians a lot better than you will back in the States.
Absolutely.
But the other fun story was this one time that I kept getting these bills from partner for a SIM card that I had. and it was a bill that I need to expense, and so I needed my name on it correctly. I don't know what happened when I signed up for this SIM card. I did it in a mall over here in Modine, and I don't know, the incompetent person, when he or she was entering my name, basically just, I don't know, sat on the keyboard and just a whole bunch of letters came out. So now every month I get the bill and there's just a whole bunch of letters for my name. And I'm like, that's not my name. So I called up Partner and they're like, oh, okay, if you want to change your name, you have to send us a fax. So here we go again. I'm like, what, you guys are you're a technology company. Why are you asking me for a fax? You deal in cell phones. Like make the connection. No, you got to send us fax. I said, I'm not sending you fax. I said, okay, well then you can go to the mall, where you got the SIM card and they'll do it there. I'm like, okay, fine. So, a little inconvenient, but I'm just not dealing with a fax. So I get up, I go to the mall, I get there and they're like, oh yeah, so you missed the person who takes care of that name thing. I'm like, what do you mean? There's someone who takes it? You're sitting in front of computers, open up and fix my name. No, you have to come back tomorrow at 10 o'clock. I'm like, what are you talking about? I said, I'm not coming back. So now I'm like, okay, fine, I'll do the damn fax. So I happen to have a multifunction printer and it has fax capabilities. I just, on principle, I don't want to hook it up. So I said, okay, I'll hook it up. So I hooked it up.
Because you don't live in 1993.
Filled out the form. Now, what do they tell me to do? Right. So, but now I have to transport myself in a time machine for Partner communications. So what do they want? They want me to send a copy of my Teudat Zehut. I'm like, okay. So I take my Teudat Zehut, I put it in the thing, I fax it to them. Okay, a month goes by, I get the bill, same thing. I'm like, what the hell? So I called them up. They're like, oh, well, the fax wasn't clear. I said, well, because it's a fax. Like, faxes are not clear. You're talking about 1980s technology, and you're asking me to fax you a Teudat Zehut that's this big. So what do you expect? Like, well, why don't you send it again? I'm like, but why don't you just let me email it to you? They said, no, it has to be faxed. You have to know that it's the original. I'm like, well, how do you expect me to fax it? I did, and you said it's not clear. They said, well, how about you take a picture of it, blow it up, and fax that? I said, well, how's that the original then? If I'm going to do that, let me just email it to you. She's like, no, you have to do that. But I said, okay, fine. So I took a picture, I blew it up, and just to be fun about it, I blew it up full size, and I faxed a giant size Teudat Zehut to them. A month goes by, I get the bill, same crap. I was like, oh my God, now I'm mad. So at this point, I basically, this is already that was strike three. I went to the mall once, I faxed it once, I faxed it twice. I'm like, I'm done now. So I just said, you know what the hell? I loaded up my fax machine, put it on redial, whatever it is, and I basically sent them the fax continuously, nonstop, for about 5 days. And the interesting thing is they apparently have only one fax line. What was happening when I was sending the fax, I said, let me just see if people could send faxes simultaneously. I picked up another phone and dialed that number and it was busy. So I was clearly tying up the line. So you would think someone would wake up and these faxes shooting it and say, okay, we really better take care of this.
Yeah.
No, it took them 5 days. But finally, after 5 days, they called me up and they're like, Adoni, אולי יש תקלה בפקס שלך. I'm like, לא, אין תקלה. They're like, אבל אנחנו מקבלים כמה מאות פקסים. I'm like, זה לא תקלה. And anyway, I basically told them, I said, listen, until you change my thing, I'm going to keep faxing. Because you wanted a fax, you're going to get a fax. And now I want you to fix it. They're like, so they're begging me on the phone, please just stop faxing. I said, when you tell me that it's confirmed by email that I have my new name, my name correctly, I will stop faxing it. Within 5 minutes, I had an email saying, here's your thing, it's fixed, please stop faxing it. And that was it, I stopped faxing it. But then the funniest part was then I get the bill from Bezek and I'm like, oh my God, they billed me like a crazy amount for all the faxes. I called them up, I said, hey, takala fax shali. So that was one acclamation story that drove me a little bit insane. Another one that actually was really funny was when I was here for a year, you have your Teudat Mavar, and then after a year, it expires and you have to get a passport. So I went to the office. I had a trip planned for the following week. So I go to the Misad and I'm like, I need to get my passport, but I have a trip in a week. They said, oh, don't worry, you'll get it before then. I said, yeah, I don't know about that. Like, can we expedite this? No, it's not necessary. You will get it. I said, okay, if you say so. So I do the whole form, everything like that. I go home. A few days go by, no passport. Now I'm traveling on Sunday. Now it's Tuesday. So I go to the Misad of Name. Listen, my flight's this Sunday. I still didn't get it. They're like, let me look it up. She's going on the computer. She looks it up. She says, oh, it was already mailed to you. Here's the tracking number. Look, they said, oh, it looks like it's stuck in the post office. And then she starts cursing at the post office. She's like, you know what? Go to the post office and tell them, she writes me a letter from the Misad. She goes, tell them to give you your envelope, give you the envelope. I'm like, okay, now where does she send me? To Ligad Center. Now, I don't know of any post office in Ligad Center, but she told me it's in Ligad Center. So I go to Ligad Center, I'm driving up and down the streets, I don't see any post office. I see a cop. I asked the cop, I said, where's the post office? He's like, in the mall. I said, no, they told me Ligad Center. He goes, I don't know anything. So I just started walking randomly in and out of buildings, and suddenly I found one building that had the post office. It was like a sorting facility. It wasn't an actual where you can actually walk in. It was just a sorting, and that's where it was sitting. My envelope supposedly was somewhere in that sorting facility.
Oh gosh.
So I go in, and they say, oh yeah, it's down, go to Ninoska Ravid. I go, okay, I go down to Ninoska Ravid. The elevator door opens, and it was like Twilight Zone. Like flickering lights. I'm walking down a long hallway with piles of mail. I'm like, oh my God, I found all Modi'in's mail, all just like piles just falling all over the place. I finally get to the end of the hall. All of a sudden, like a head pops or like some like big room at the end. And they're like, okay, if Shama is off, I'm like, yeah, can I please, I need this, this envelope that from the Misrad Apnim. So she's like, oh, I can't help you. I'm like, why not? She's like, I don't know how to work the computer. I said, okay, can you give me someone here who does know how to work the computer? No, everyone's gone for the day. I was like, they're gone for the day. It's 1:30. Yeah, but they're all gone for the day. Come back tomorrow. I said, can you just look? No, just come back tomorrow. So I came back the next day. Now here's someone else. He's looking. So now it's Wednesday already. Looking. I can't find it. Sorry. I said, but it says it's here. Look at your own website. On your website, it says it's here. He goes, yeah, but I don't see it. He goes, you know what? Give me your number and I'll call you back later today. Well, I'll look again. I go, okay, I give my number. Sure enough, I don't get a call. Now it's Thursday. I went to the Misrad Apnim. I said, listen, I'm leaving Sunday. It's Thursday. There's nothing else open before then. I have to get on this flight. What do you want me to do? What does she do? She writes me a letter on Misrad Apnim letterhead that says, please let Moshe Arking back into the country. And she goes, okay, take this with you. I'm like, are you kidding? This is my passport? I get to the airport and I'm walking through the thing and the guy's looking at me. He goes, what is this? I said, don't ask me. This is what they gave me because my passport. Well, why don't you have a passport? I said, ask them. Here, call the number. Misrad Apnim, call them. He was like so grumpy, but in the end, he let me through.
Oh my God.
I land in America the next day, and I when you land, when you get you turn your phone on, and all of a sudden everything starts coming in. All of a sudden, what comes in the first thing? A text message from Francis with a picture of my passport that came in the mail that as soon as I left on Sunday. I was like, this is nuts. And then coming back in, they gave me a hard time again. They're like, what is this letter? I'm like, don't start again. I said, just let me in. So that was crazy. And that actually reminded me of another funny story.
Yeah, but they let you in. They let you in and they let you out with a handwritten. It's like
let me in with a piece of paper that says let me in.
Yeah, like your mother wrote a permission slip for you and they let you leave.
Right. Like you can go here, go take this to the principal's office or something like that. It's crazy. Oh, that reminds me of one other story. So one time, this was like when we first landed. So we first landed, what happened was before we got here, we applied in advance, like to try to get our kids into Ariel. Mm-hmm. Because in New York, our kids were in Barkai Yeshiva. It's almost like the American counterpart in Brooklyn to what Ariel is here. They have the same system of learning, same hashkafa, same everything like that. So I really want them to go to Ariel. So we applied and we didn't get in. And we did an appeal and we still didn't get in. So now we landed landed here in June. And I think the deadline to appeal for the last time maybe or something like that was like in July, like the next week. So I go in and now, or like we literally had like 1 day left to file this appeal. So we go into the office. It's like, I don't know, 10 a.m. and oh, it was 10:05, right? That's, I remember now. It was 10:05. We walk in, and I'm like, okay, I want to file this appeal, whatever it is. She's like, no, we're closed. I'm like, what do you mean you're closed? When do you open? She goes, no, we're closed for the day. We finished. I said, finished? It's 10:05. When did you start? 2 in the morning? She's like, no, it's summer hours, 8 to 10. I said, 8 to 10, that's it? Like, what do you do the rest of the day? No. She goes, I said, but I just want to file an appeal. Take me 2 minutes. She goes, no, you have to come back tomorrow. I'm like, fine. So I come back the next day. I get there like 8:30. I go, okay, I want to file an appeal. She goes, no, sorry, the deadline was yesterday. Same woman. I said, are you crazy? I said, you know me. I was here yesterday. I told you what I was going to do. You told me to come back today. Don't tell me the deadline was yesterday. I'm not leaving here until I file. She goes, no, you can't. I said, I'm not leaving. I made such a stink. The manager came out from the back, said, what's going on? And I said, I basically said, I want to file this issue. Come back today. I'm here. I'm not leaving. I'm filing this thing. So the manager turns to the woman. And she's like, "Machpat lach." So she's like, okay, fine. Like, she's all begrudgingly like giving me the thing to form. So I'm like, gonna fill it out, but like, I know she's gonna put it right in the shredder. But sure enough, like, she actually did it, and it worked. For the third time was the charm. And we got the kids in, and everything was okay. But like, it's one of those things where like you just have to know what you're dealing with. And you know, the thing from what I hear from a lot of Americans that come here is they're so used to like the manners and the conventions and the organization that like they come here and like so shell shocked that they don't know what to do, or they just basically like, okay, I won't file it then. I'm like, you have to know, like, you just have to know, like, fight for everything, and that's
you got to.
Yeah.
I mean, I sort of kind of had a little bit of that because I grew up in, I'm Latin American, and that's sort of kind of how it works. My favorite line is like, Israel's the most technologically advanced banana republic. Like, I know how it works. And so my Latin crazy translates well here. It didn't necessarily in America, because, having that. And then, so I sort of kind of did okay here. I love the fact that, it's crazy. And no one watching this or listening to this should ever get the wrong impression. We love it here. We love it, and we love bashing it and like telling these stories, because it just makes the crazy, like, we can laugh about it, and once you're not in that moment and you step back and you take a look at it, you're like, it's just crazy. And so
and you can actually, but like the thing about living here, even with all that stuff, is you always know you're not dealing, like, I mean, even if they're strangers, they're not total strangers. They're just they're fellow Jews, they're brothers, so like you get that feeling. And I took my son Raymond to see a bunch of NFL players that came here to Jerusalem. So I took Raymond to Kraft Stadium, and we were talking to we were talking to them, we listened to them talk and things like that. And let me see, I'm gonna look, I forgot what his name was. Let me see if I can look it up real quick.
Was he a player?
Yeah, he was Joe Montana.
Oh, okay, nice.
That's who it was, right? Duh, how did I forget that? Okay.
Yeah.
So Joe Montana was there, and they asked him, they said, what's one thing that stands out to you about Israel? Like, what impression do you get? So he actually said something that stuck with me till today. He said, the one thing that stands out more than anything else here that I feel is, I don't feel like I'm in a country with a bunch of people. He goes, I feel like I'm in a giant family. He goes, I feel like it's just everyone here is just one big family. And it hit me because I was like, that's so true. It's like, you can get mad at the person at the Misradat name. You can get mad, but then at the end you're like Chag Sameach, you're like all the,
absolutely.
It's still, it's still your people, and all the more so now when I go back to the States, I really feel the difference. Like that, and I born and raised there. I lived there for 4 decades, and yet it's weird that I don't feel at home anymore when I'm there. Like, I really feel like, wow, this was just a temporary thing. Now this is home. So like when you say that, like, as much as we love those places, it's true. And like you talk about Latin America. I mean, I love Latin America. I mean, some of my best pictures and some of my favorite places to go has been like Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico and all those places. And I still, one of these days, I want to get to Colombia one of these days.
You need
But
to.
just there's, it's so much fun, but at the same time, all the more now, like you know that it's not home. It's not.
Yeah, one of my favorite stories is when we first arrived back in the day in Shilat. Shum people was there, and everyone was, there was no Super Tov, so there was no other place to buy like any type of American products. So this was like my first trip there, and I'm there with my kids. And I go in and we're so excited, and I'm like, oh, Duncan Hines and this and that, and and I've got all the stuff, and I go to the cash register, and I'm like, oh, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna make a cake, and blah blah blah, and he rings everything up, and then I go to pay, and I reach into my bag, and I realize I had forgotten my wallet at home. And I'm like, oh no. And my kids were so much younger then, and they were so looking forward to the treats and the stuff and the nosh that I was buying. And I'm like, oh no, I felt so bad. I'm like, oh no, I forgot my wallet. I'm like, okay, could you put everything aside? I'll drive back to Modi'in and then I'll come back. And he goes, Mapitom. He goes, just pay me the next time you're in here. And I'm like,
are you kidding? Right.
It blew my mind. I had never been in the store. I mean, now I know the owner, I know the guy, like it would be no big deal. But this was the first time I was there with my kids. I'm like, I don't know, it was like a few hundred shekels worth of stuff. And
wow.
and I was just like, okay. And I was just like, my heart at that moment was just like, it was just such a nice, simple gesture, but that's what it's like here. And we have each other's backs, and we'll yell and scream at everyone. Oh, you're rude, you're obnoxious, you're this. But when push comes to shove, everyone,
it's true.
Yeah, everyone has each other's backs here. So the fact story, one of my absolute favorite stories ever, and it's just quintessential, like Israel, send the facts, and you got to nudge them every day in order to get your name changed, but you got it done, and you did it in a I think a very comical fun way. But yeah, kol hakavod. Do you have any of your pictures that you can show us handy, like you can share? I love your photos so much.
Sure. I guess I could start with the let's see. We could start with the Caribbean one, since we were talking about that.
Nice. Oh, you're ski. Oh, wow. Look at that. Where is that, the Dominican Republic?
This is, good call. So this is the Dominican Republic.
Yeah.
Let's see. This is also, this is one of the things I love about Dominican Republic, is like they have just these so colorful. And this is actually a funny story, because so I was there, and I came first to the capital, which is like, Metro, whatever. I mean, as Metro get in the Dominican Republic. And then everybody goes over to the other end of the island, which is where all the resorts are and everything. But in between, it's just, Shantyville,
Yeah.
And
yeah.
And people typically would take either a plane to the other side, like a little puddle jumper, or they'll even fly directly there.
Yeah.
Or they would, take like some kind of Uber kind of thing. Yeah. I said, you know what, let me do this the fun way. I'm going to they have these buses. I forgot what they're called now, but it was like I forgot what the name was of the company. But it's basically, it's the main people who take them are these hotel workers, the service people. So I get on this bus, and it's like me, non-Latino, and then you have all these, I mean, thank God my Spanish is not too bad, but like then you have all these other people getting on, the bus boys and the maids and the all those things. And I mean, it was just bizarre, because they're coming on and they're like shoving all kinds of weird things on the racks, and then like some of them coming with their kids, bringing like whole meals with them, and they're sitting there next to me, and I'm like, this is such a interesting cultural thing. But the coolest part was just riding through, and it's one of those buses, it makes a few stops along the way, so you're riding really through all these different interesting neighborhoods, and like this was one of them where like just everything was colorful, and I loved this one little thing, which was like you had all these regular sized houses, and then you had this like little mini house, pink, with a little tin roof. I just thought it was like amazing.
Wait,
So
I
that,
don't see that picture. Show that picture to us.
oh, wait, you're
Wait,
not seeing?
right now I'm just seeing the beach.
Oh, I didn't realize that was no time. Okay, wait, hold on. Oh,
And in countries like that, you have you really have the have and the have-nots. It's a
right.
huge discrepancy in Latin American countries. You know, when we coming from America and even like living here, you know, you have a middle class. You have a working middle class, a lower middle class, you know, upper lower class. Like you have all of these, you know, different, you know. Oh wow, gorgeous the color. But yeah,
Yeah. So
wow.
this is the one I was like, and it's true. You really do have such. You see the huge differences in
Yeah,
class in a
yeah,
lot of these countries. I mean, the Dominican Republic, for the most part, I think most of them are actually low to mid to
yeah,
low class.
yeah.
You know, economically, I'm saying,
Economically, yeah,
but then you see the stark difference as soon as you get to the resorts, and it's like
yeah,
obviously only tourists, and
yeah,
it's really, to me, it almost bothers me because it's one of those things where it's like, how do they feel about that? It's like all these rich people just coming in just to live it up and then go home, and
yeah,
you know they still are left living, you know, the way they live. So
yeah,
that, you know, it's just sad a little bit.
yeah.
Um, this was the full
Wow.
cemetery that I passed in Dominican Republic that I thought was really cool. Just
Yeah,
it reminded me of a little. It reminded me of because they're very Catholic over there. It reminded me of when I was in New Orleans. There's
yeah. I
like
was about to say it
a
looks very. It looks almost French.
yeah. So
Yeah,
it
it
reminded me a
does.
lot about that.
Yeah.
Let's see what else do we have. Then this is actually interesting. This was their main um, park in the downtown,
Yeah.
and all those faces are honor all their past presidents
Oh
essentially.
wow.
So it's a yeah, it's that was an interesting one too.
Yeah,
Um,
that's like very colonial Spanish looking.
yeah, yeah. Oh, and oh, speaking of colonial Spanish, look at this one. So
Yeah.
this is one of the oldest churches in the entire Caribbean. So Dominican
Wow.
Republic is on the same island with Haiti,
Yeah.
and back
In the
400
day.
years ago, it was called Hispaniola, the whole
Yeah.
island. There was no Dominican
Yeah.
Republic. Haiti was just Hispaniola,
Yeah.
and it was called that because that was the first island that was settled by the Spaniards when they left, you know, the kings, you know, on the mission to go
Yeah.
out and conquer the Caribbean. So this was one of the first churches that was ever built, and Dominican Republic actually has the first church in the entire Americas. And
Wow.
I think this might be the one. It's either this one or there was another one. I don't remember which one it was, but it was one of those two. It was pretty cool.
Wow.
And this one was actually, this is an actually interesting building. This was the building where Diego Columbus, Christopher's son,
Yeah.
who was governor of Hispaniola, that was the seat of government of Hispaniola. This was the arm of the Spanish government in the Caribbean. And this building is the same building going back that same you know,
That
almost
period.
4 centuries or so. Yeah,
Wow.
300 something years. And then the last one I have from the Dominican Republic is this cool one here. So this is like the
Beautiful.
first forts that was built
Yeah.
over there.
Beautiful.
So that was really good. And then
It's
keeping in the
beautiful.
same Caribbean thing, I'll show you a couple of things from there. So
You need
I'll
to
have
go to Jamaica. It used to Jamaica. Oh wow, that is absolutely stunning. See, that's such a gorgeous.
Jamaica. I have not been yet, actually.
Oh,
I do
the
need to go there.
composition of that photo is stunning. It's just beautiful. The light, everything. It's just
Yeah, I love this one. This was one of
it's
my
like,
favorite pictures.
yeah, it's like a perfect photo.
Yeah,
Absolutely
I
stunning.
don't suppose you'll guess where this one is because you don't really see anything that might give it away. But this was actually Puerto Rico.
I promise you, I was going to say Puerto Rico just because of the
Really?
fishing
Wow.
boats.
All right. Well, here, this one will probably give you a better idea. This one you'll see more of Puerto Rico.
Yeah,
So this
yeah.
picture was very cool. So
The
I got
Healy
there.
interior.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Yeah, right in the heart of the island. And what
yeah.
happened is I got there the year within the year after they had that massive hurricane that
Wow.
destroyed half the island.
Wow. Yeah.
And this picture was taken from like the summit of this coffee plantation on
Wow.
a mountain. In Puerto Rico, a lot of the coffee plantations are on mountains, and they grow the coffee beans on the mountains.
Wow.
So I went up all the way to this mountain, and you know, we saw all the coffee. So I was going. He showed us how it was affected by the hurricane, and then in the end, you know, got to sample some coffees and things like that. But it was just, this was like, I saw the view from there. I thought it was really,
well,
really,
the clouds look like they're painted. They're just like so perfect. They don't even look real. They look like it's a painting.
yeah. So I actually, obviously, like I do some post editing on a lot of
the color, enhanced color.
I bring out. In fact, there's some that I can show you that have really crazy things. In fact, no, let me just I'll jump real quick to one interesting one that
one time I went to Puerto Rico, and the most bizarre thing, I've never had this at any other point in my life, and I don't know if this happens with other people, but literally I'm standing here and it's raining, and then I step here and it's not raining. Like I was at the point where the rain stopped.
That's crazy.
I mean, it was just.
It's not so common, but yeah, I guess down there it's more common because the rains come and go every day.
Yeah. No, but I said for like 5 minutes, I kept going, it's raining, it's not raining, it's raining, it's not raining.
You only needed half an umbrella.
I know. It was gorgeous.
So, talking about the post-processing stuff that I do, so this was an interesting one. A friend of mine, this is a picture that my cousin took this picture that I'm going to send you, I'm going to show you now. And he said, and he always like marvels at like what I do to the pictures. And he said, okay, he said, I took this picture of the New York City skyline. He goes, what could you do with it? So what you're going to see here on top is the picture he took, and then on the bottom is what I ended up doing with it.
Okay. Oh, wow. Wow.
So he just took a regular dreary day picture, and then you could bring out the sunlight coming from the clouds. I mean, it's there. It just needs to be brought out more. You could give it more dramatic. I mean, I said this then. He said this looks like Armageddon. I said, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah,
so that was the intention. But speaking of,
or like an angel coming, it's beautiful.
Talking about that one, yeah. Oh, yeah. Like somewhere over here, coming down. This is also Puerto Rico. This was at a beach called Crash Boat. This is it during the day. This is before sunset is right here.
Wow. Ah, nice.
And it's interesting because you have a couple of boats that just kind of sit there, and they have these like gigantic speakers on them, and they're blasting like reggaeton music, and everyone's having a good time and stuff like that. So other than the coffee plantation, most of the stuff I have is just like beaches
and beautiful.
Like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh wait, I do have one other unusual one from Puerto Rico, but it makes sense. It's this one here at the Bacardi.
Ah, nice.
Yeah.
A visit to Puerto Rico is not a visit without going to the Bacardi factory.
Exactly.
I remember going there too. No, I think at that
Let's see if you can guess this place. Which island is this? I'll show you. Let's see. I'll give you two pictures to guess.
Oh.
So here's one picture.
Gorgeous water.
One more to guess. You got that one?
Not much to go on, but keep going. Oh, wait, with the rocks like that?
Yeah.
I want to say like Aruba.
You're not far actually. It's Turks and Caicos.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah. So this was
the volcanic rocks on the shores there like that.
Yeah, it's like just beautiful over there.
Wow.
And the water is just absolutely unbelievable. I mean,
it's like see-through.
Yeah, it's see-through.
You can you can throw a coin all the way on the bottom, and
I was in there up to my neck.
Yeah.
And I was able to see my toes.
Yeah.
And I'm a big wuss when it comes to getting in the ocean. I the sea, whatever. I just hate not being able to see what I'm stepping on, and I had no problem going there because of that.
That's what the water is like where I'm from, where I grew up, and it is just completely translucent, and it's just stunning, absolutely stunning, the water.
Yeah.
And it's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. But you should make a trip also to Jamaica if you can manage it. I'll tell you, when you were talking about the oldest church, because it was a community that for the longest time, for about 150 years, the descendants of Christopher Columbus's family had the island. It was maintained without any presence from the Catholic Church, and it actually became a safe haven for the Jews of the Caribbean and Latin America. And it actually has a big history of Judaism there on the island, and archives and beautiful,
Really? Wow, I
beautiful,
didn't know
beautiful,
that.
yeah, beautiful history. That was
I think,
like, that was
I think
one
my
of,
parents went there like 15 years ago, or something, but I don't
right?
remember talking about that. So
What
I
did
don't
you,
really know.
I lost you. What
Oh,
did
I
you,
said, I think, oh, I was saying my parents went there, I think like maybe 15, 20 years ago or something like that, but I don't remember talking about that. But that's
yeah,
pretty interesting. I definitely do want to make it there one of these
yeah.
days, that's for sure.
Very interesting. They're Jewish cemeteries. There's a very, very small, older Jewish community there now. But it was really a safe haven for Jews, like, my ancestors and people in Latin America,
Wow.
in the Caribbean, because they kept hopping from place to place throughout the Caribbean and Latin America, because they would go in one place and, everything was fine. And then, 20, 30 years later, the shit would hit the fan, and then they'd have to load up their boats and go to someplace else, and but his family kept it as a place where the Catholic Church had no presence for 150 years, which
Wow.
it lends to the rumors that perhaps he was a converso, and his family was his converso family. That was like one of the things that, and he held out for, before he left, for the longest time, that he would be able to get a place and have sovereignty over it to some extent. So that was like one
Wow.
of
I
the
didn't
things.
know that. Wow.
Yeah, and
That's
so
very
he
cool.
was able to pass it down to his descendants, and yeah, so it's very interesting. So you got to get there one day.
Definitely can't wait. Well, segueing from talking about Jews, I'll show you some interesting pictures from Germany when I was there last year. It was really interesting. I should say something about Germany. I should say something first about Germany. The
Wow.
first time I went to Germany was like 20 something years ago.
Wow.
And I remember being a little nervous to go.
Yeah.
Because, and just being Jewish and going to Germany, and I was just like, this just doesn't feel right. It's weird. And I remember getting out. I took a train there because I went there from Italy, I think. And I remember getting out of the train and having the weirdest mixed emotions, because it was just beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt weird thinking that Germany was beautiful, especially because like you grow up seeing anything you see about Germany growing up is black and white pictures, bombed out cities, death, destruction, and then and black and white. And then you get there, and Germany today is green. Everything is parks and
it's gorgeous
fields, and everything's nature, and it's just it's incredible. So
and then architecturally also.
Yes,
I love the architecture.
It's very unique. I mean, like you see like buildings with these like 4 levels of roof of little attic windows. It's like just so bizarre, but I love it. And actually, this picture was taken in Nuremberg. So speaking of Nazis and the history, and this is a very interesting place. But there were some like really phenomenal pictures that I was able to get over there of just like, it's just the most amazing architecture. Here's actually another one of the river that I got, which I thought was good. This actually is the last one I took. I'll show you from there, which was also just the architecture. There's a little plaza that I thought was
just like a little square.
Yeah, really,
absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah,
it's so neat. It's so beautiful. It's so architectural. It's so like it runs, and it's like organized, and you just like hate to love that.
I know. It's true.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I could go on forever. I don't want to keep going.
No,
but
these have been great. These are absolutely beautiful. I think that you should like put together like a little book of your photography.
I actually do. I have a book that I did. I think like one of those. What was it? I don't know, Snapfish or photo book. One of those things where they let you do those things. Yeah. So I did one just because I remember I got a coupon or something like for free once. So I said, all right, let me just do it. I'll put on my photography. So I did that. And it was like, ended up being like a coffee table thing in my house in New York. And then some people came, and I actually had a couple people that wanted copies of it. And so I printed up more copies and gave them to like a couple people that wanted them.
You absolutely should.
Thank you.
Absolutely should. You can even maybe even do like an ebook,
Right. Well, in the meantime, I mean, anyone who wants to see, I do have an Instagram account. So it is visible. I mean, anyone can just go there and check it all out.
I'll include that on a link with this. Where we
I don't even know what my Instagram name is. The truth is, I haven't updated it in forever. Probably partially because of this whole Corona thing.
Yeah.
And partially also just because, like, I just been so busy with all kinds of other things that I haven't really had time
to do it.
Take photography. And the other thing, actually, with all these pictures, 99% of the pictures that's on that I do are taken with an iPhone and post-processed on the iPhone.
Yeah.
So that was like the challenge that I always enforced for myself, was I have to do everything on the phone. Like nothing Photoshop, nothing, and I wanted to do it all.
That in itself is fantastic. I mean, that's like a wonderful, I don't know if gimmick. I don't want to use the word gimmick, but it definitely would make me look at the photos completely differently if I knew that all the photos were taken on your phone. First of all, I love your photography and I thought it was great. And now that I know that you did it on your phone, it's like, wow.
Thank you. Here's one more that I really love. This is one of my favorites. The Brooklyn Bridge. It's probably like my favorite bridge. Well, that and the Verrazano are my two favorite bridges. So
that's the
Verrazano. Yeah. This one's actually a funny one. This one I took while I was driving. I basically stuck and in retrospect, it was a stupid thing to do, but I basically stuck my hand out the window with my phone. I mean, I held it pretty tightly.
Yeah.
And as I was driving, I just basically went like that and just snapped the picture. I said, I hope this comes out good.
Wow.
And it came out pretty good.
Because it looks almost as if though you're standing, far.
Yeah, I was doing like 60 miles an hour when I took that picture. So.
Pretty good. That's actually pretty good. It's stunning. Absolutely beautiful. And I'm going to give you a tip because I know that you love organizing and I love organizing. I'm like, it's like my thing. I love anything that's organized. It just makes me happy. Do you know the home edit?
Home edit.
You have to find a home.
Is that a website or is that what is that?
It's a website, but it's these two ladies that own a company. It's called the Home Edit, and they go in and they just organize everything for people. That's like their job. They do celebrities and regular folk and whatever, but just their approach to it. There's Marie Kondo. She's a little too she throws everything away. Too much for me. A tiny bit too much. But there, you have an aesthetic to your organization, and I do too. And I think that it's going to be like the biggest.
It's called OCD. I'm a little. I mean, I'm not clinically OCD, but I'm probably somewhere close to the borderline because
Tiny bit.
Get nuts. I get nuts from things being disorganized or messy or anything like that, and that's another reason why I spend so many hours in my office. Like sometimes when it's just too crazy out there, I'm like, all right, I'm going to stay here till you guys clean up.
Well, I used to be like that. I had to give up on it in order to remain sane because I had kids and, I'm mom. and I literally, there came a point where I just knew I can either be crazy or give up on organizing certain things and just have certain things organized.
So I had a good tactic that's been working so far. So number one, I got them semi-addicted to screens just because I am. So I guess monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah.
So that's half the equation. The other half of the equation is they're not allowed to use their screens until the house is clean. So basically, they're always scrambling, picking things up, cleaning up the bathroom, clean up they're wiping down the counters. They're doing everything just so that they can get on and watch some episode or something.
I think I might have to steal that concept from you. But I'm going to send you the site, and you should follow them on Instagram and also just
check it out.
They actually have a new series on Netflix, and it's just like, I just watch it and just go, it's so good. Anyway, it was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for sharing your artwork with us, your stories, your insight, and just joyfulness, because we've got to stay connected and we just have to stay positive and find the good in like.
Well, I want to thank you for this as well.
It was my pleasure.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great idea. You know, you don't see too many, like not getting out, and especially with the lockdown. I mean,
yeah,
this is great. I remember when back in March when we first started the lockdown, a couple of our friends were like, "Hey, let's have a wine date on Zoom."
Yeah.
You know, and back then Zoom was just starting to get
yeah.
you know, big, and we're like, "All right, sure." We got on, we spent an hour just drinking wine together on Zoom with them. So it was just kind of fun. So something like this is a great initiative, and you know, you gotta tell me when that you post new ones. I'm totally in for watching.
I'll let you know beforehand, and I will post this probably next week. So
sounds good, and I'm looking forward to seeing any of your other ones as well.
All right, beautiful. This is amazing. Have a fantastic night, and thank you so much.
Thanks. For taking the time. Stay safe and healthy, and happy New Year also.
Some beauty. All right. All the best to everyone. Have a great night.
Thanks.
Okay. Bye. Good night.
Good night.